The music from the reception hall thumped against the glass doors, a heavy beat that vibrated in my chest. Outside, the New England air was cold, making my sister's white wedding dress seem to glow. We were finally alone, and the 10 years of silence stretched between us, heavy and thick. "Hannah, I need to know," I said, my voice shaking. "Why?" Hannah, my sister, the bride, looked at me. Her veil was off, her hair perfect. She looked like an angel. But her eyes were ice. "You want to know why?" she hissed, the word sharp in the night air. "You deserve to hurt, Akari. You ruined my life first." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about? That was 10 years ago." 10 years. 20. "It doesn't matter," she snapped. "You told him I was poison. You told Kaito to leave me. So I made sure you lost the one thing you loved, your scholarship. We're even." My mind went blank. She'd admitted it. After a decade of pretending, she finally admitted she was the reason my dreams were burned to the ground. But the reason she gave, it made no sense. 'Twas a lie. And as I stood there, stunned into silence, I knew this night was just getting started. This wasn't just a simple fight. This was something much, much darker. Have you ever been betrayed so badly you couldn't even find the words to fight back? Let me know in the comments. My mind flashed back, a movie reel spinning 1,000 miles an hour. I saw myself 19 years old, sitting in a coffee shop. Kaito sat across from me, his face full of worry. He was Hannah's first love, and she was breaking his heart, pushing him away one day and pulling him back the next. "I don't know what to do, Akari," he had said, running his hands through his hair. "She's so angry all the time." I remembered what I said. I remembered it perfectly. "She's just struggling, Kaito. She's under a lot of pressure. Be patient with her. She loves you." I had defended her. I had tried to help her. I snapped back to the present. Hannah was watching me, a small, smug smile on her face, waiting for me to break. The cold air hit my lungs. She didn't just sabotage me. She had created a story, a total, complete lie, to justify it. She had painted me as the villain to everyone. My own sister. For 10 years, I thought we had a falling out. I thought it was a stupid fight that time just made worse. But this was no accident. This was a choice. She had been telling this lie for 10 years. The missed birthdays, the silent holidays, the way my family slowly, surely iced me out. It all clicked. It was all built on this. The reception door burst open, spilling golden light and the sound of laughter onto the patio. The groom Ren stood there. Behind him were my parents, Mr. and Mrs. Tanaka. "Hannah! Honey, what's wrong?" my mother shrieked, rushing forward. She completely ignored me, her eyes only for her perfect, crying bride. Hannah, right on cue, burst into tears. "She's ruining it. She's ruining my night." Hannah wailed, collapsing into Ren's arms. Ren's face was a mask. He was a lawyer, and I could see him analyzing the scene. He looked at me, then at his new wife, and then he made his choice. He wrapped his arms around Hannah, pulling her close and glaring at me over her head. "What did you say to her?" he demanded, his voice low. "She's the one who—" I started, but my father cut me off. "Akari." His voice was like a slammed door. Cold, final. He stepped in front of my mother. He hadn't said my name in 10 years, and it sounded wrong. 10 years of silence. "And you choose now to attack your sister. You are no daughter of mine. Leave." The words hit me harder than a slap. My own father. He didn't even ask what happened. He just convicted me. The entire family, my new brother-in-law, my parents. They formed a solid wall around Hannah, and I was on the outside. My father, Mr. Tanaka, did not raise his voice. He never did. He was a man who controlled everything with quiet, deadly force. He caught the eye of a security guard standing by the entrance. The man was burly, wearing a black suit, and he immediately started walking toward us. "Show her out," my father said, not even looking at me. "She is trespassing." Trespassing. At my own sister's wedding. The humiliation was so hot, it burned the tears right out of my eyes. The guard put a heavy hand on my arm. But she admitted it. I cried, my voice cracking. I looked at Ren, at my mother. She told me. She ruined my scholarship. She admitted it. My mother just sobbed into her hands. Ren's face was stone. Hannah hid her face in his chest. The guard started to pull me away, past the shocked, whispering guests who were staring through the glass doors. My father stopped the guard for 1 second. He leaned in close, his cologne smelling like old wood and secrets. He whispered so low only I could hear. "Whatever she did," he breathed, his voice full of ice, "you deserved it. You deserved it for what you did to this family." Then he nodded. The guard pulled me away, and I was alone in the dark. What did I do? What did he mean? I thought I knew what this was about. But his words, they pointed to something else. Something I didn't even know I was being blamed for. I was sobbing in my rental car, the engine off, the quiet parking lot pressing in on me. I couldn't breathe. My hand was on the key, ready to drive away and never look back. A sharp tap on the passenger window made me scream. I looked over, my heart pounding. It was my Aunt Suki, my mother's sister, the family's artistic black sheep. She had always been kind to me. I fumbled with the lock and she slid into the passenger seat, pulling her thin shawl around her. She didn't say, "I'm sorry," or "Are you okay?" She just looked at me with sad, knowing eyes. "I never believed their story, Akari," she whispered. "What story?" Choked out. "She just told me. She said I told Kaito to leave her." Aunt Suki shook her head, her face full of pity. "Oh honey, it's so much worse than that." I waited, my blood turning to ice. What Hannah told everyone, what she told your father, wasn't just that you broke them up. Aunt Suki took a shaky breath. She told them you stole Kaito for yourself. She told them you were secretly seeing him behind her back. The world stopped. Stole Kaito. That was the lie. That was the thing I did to the family. That was why my father's hate was so deep. I was the traitor. I was the one who had, in their eyes, committed the ultimate sin. My mind was spinning. "But that's insane," I said, my voice hoarse. I hated the way he treated her half the time. I wrote letters. After the fight I wrote so many letters. To Mom, to Dad. Even to Hannah. I tried to explain. No one ever answered. And Suki just looked at me. Then she reached into her designer handbag. She pulled out a bundle of faded, unopened envelopes, tied with a dried-out rubber band. My heart stopped. It was my handwriting. "I was at their house for Thanksgiving maybe 8 years ago," Aunt Suki said softly. "I was helping your mother clean out your father's office. He had these hidden in his desk drawer under his checkbooks." My blood went cold. You went to my father. When? The day after. The day I broke up with her. I went to his office. I was 19, Akari. I was a stupid, angry kid. I thought he would, I don't know, be a father. Be horrified. I told him everything. I told him I saw Hannah destroy your portfolio. I told him she was laughing. And, I whispered, my heart hammering. What did he say? Kaito took a long, shaky breath. He listened. He was very calm. He didn't seem surprised at all. When I was done, he just nodded. He opened his desk drawer. And he offered me $20,000 to disappear. I dropped my mug. Coffee splashed across the table, across my hands, scalding hot. But I didn't feel a thing. $20,000. I whispered. To leave town, Kaito said, his voice dead. To never contact you or Hannah again. To let him handle his family. $20,000. The number just hung in the air. That was the price of my future. That was the price of my father's perfect family. 20,000. I repeated, dazed. I used a napkin to blot the coffee, but my hand was shaking too badly. He said Hannah was fragile, Kaito said, his voice laced with old anger. He said this incident would destroy her, that I was the one upsetting the family, that he had a path for her and for you and I was getting in the way. And what about Ren? Asked, the name tasting like acid. The groom. He's a lawyer. He's married to her now. Kaito's face hardened. I saw him tonight. On the patio. He's got that look. That, I'm protecting my client look. He's not a husband yet. He's a defense attorney. So he's on their side, I said, the last bit of hope draining away. For now, Kaito said, leaning in. But he's a lawyer, Akari. I've worked with lawyers. They hate lies they aren't in on. They hate being made to look like fools. Right now, he thinks you're the crazy, jealous sister. What do you think he'd do if he found out the perfect bride he just married is a pathological liar, and her father paid off a witness? A tiny, cold spark ignited in my chest. He was right. A lie this big. It's a house of cards. You just have to find the right card to pull. Did you take it? Had to know. The money. Kaito's head snapped up, and for the first time, I saw a flash of the old proud guy I used to know. No, he said, offended. I told him to keep his damn money. I told him he was as crazy as she was. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. So, why did you disappear? The anger left his face, replaced by that same deep, old shame. Because he made sure I would, he said quietly. I didn't take the money. So he threatened me. He said he knew my dad's boss. He said my dad was up for a promotion. He said a word to the wise could make sure that promotion never happened. He said I was a 19-year-old kid and he was... Well, he was Mr. Tanaka. Who would believe me? My stomach turned to lead. This wasn't just a cover-up. This wasn't just a father protecting his fragile daughter. This was a threat. This was a conspiracy. He told me, we protect our own, Kaito, he said. He made it clear I wasn't one of them. My father. The man who taught me to ride a bike, the man who I thought was the most honorable person in the world. He hadn't just covered up a lie. He had actively, willingly destroyed 2 teenagers' lives to maintain his perfect, pristine image. He wasn't a misguided parent. He was a monster. The diner was quiet. The sun would be up in a few hours. Kaito and I just sat there, 2 ghosts at a table, stuck in a 10-year-old moment. All my anger at Kaito for disappearing just evaporated. He was a victim just like me. He was a 19-year-old kid, and my father, a powerful, wealthy man, had threatened his entire family. Of course he ran. So, I said, my voice quiet, but the shaking had stopped. It was replaced by something cold and hard. He's threatened you. He's silenced me. He's gaslit my entire family. And he just married off the psychopath who started it all, in a poofy white dress. Kaito nodded, watching me. Yeah. That's about the size of it. The old Akari, the one who had cried in the car, would have given up. She would have taken this new, terrible knowledge and just disappeared. But I wasn't her anymore. What are you going to do? Kaito asked. I looked at him, the first real plan forming in my mind. Aunt Suki told me. There's a gift opening brunch tomorrow. The hotel. For the close family and friends. Akari, no, Kaito said, his eyes wide. You can't. He'll just have you thrown out again. He will, I agreed. He'll have me thrown out. I leaned forward. But I don't think he'd do it if I wasn't alone. Kaito's eyes widened as he understood. Oh no, he said. We're going to the brunch, Kaito, I said. And you're coming with me. We had a few hours. Kaito went to get a room at the same motel. I sat in my room, the adrenaline coursing through me, making sleep impossible. There was one last thing I had to do. I left Kaito a note and drove to the fancy hotel where the wedding party was staying. I took the elevator up to the 10th floor. I stood outside their room, my parents' room, for a long time. Finally I knocked. It was almost 5 a.m. I heard fumbling and then the door cracked open. My mother, Mrs. Tanaka, stood there in her silk robe, her hair in a net, her face puffy from sleep and I realized from crying. "What do you mean?" I asked. The waitress dropped off my coffee, and I wrapped my cold hands around the mug. "What whole story, Kaito?" He wouldn't look at me. He just stared into his black coffee. "I tried," he whispered. "I was so angry. Her. What she did to you. I knew that portfolio was your whole future. So what did you do?" "I did something stupid," he said, finally meeting my eyes. "I didn't go to you. I went to your father." "Akari," she hissed, trying to close the door. "What are you doing?" "Your father. He'll have a heart attack." I put my hand on the door firm. "He paid Kaito to disappear," I said flatly. My mother's face crumpled. And just like that I knew. She knew. She had always known. "Akari, please," she begged, tears welling up. "He did it to protect you. Both of you. From the shame. From the fighting. He just wanted a perfect family. By sacrificing me." Asked, my voice breaking. You knew he paid him off. You knew the lie Hannah told wasn't true." "Hannah, she was so fragile," my mother whispered, clutching her robe. She was a mess. Your father. He just wanted to make it all go away." I looked at this woman, my mother, who had chosen to live in a lie for 10 years. Who had watched her husband banish one daughter to protect the other. "He wasn't protecting her, Mom," I said, my voice dead. "He was protecting himself." I turned and walked away. I took the bundle from her. My old address in my tiny off-campus apartment. My parents' address. All marked. Return to sender. "He didn't even open them," I whispered. "He told your mother your words were poison," Suki said, her voice tight with anger. "He said Hannah was too fragile to be reminded of your betrayal. He told me to throw them in the fire. I took them instead. I've been holding on to them ever since." The silence wasn't mutual. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a command. It was an execution. They hadn't just not heard my side of the story. They had actively, purposely burned it. I sat in Aunt Suki's car, staring at the unopened letters. My own words frozen in time. "What about Ren?" I asked, the question bubbling up. "Hannah's husband. He's a lawyer. He's smart. Does he believe this?" Aunt Suki sighed, looking back at the bright reception hall. "He believes what he's been told. Right now, he's the knight protecting his new queen. He's wrapped up in their story." I thought back to his face. Stone cold. But there was something else. "He looked confused," I said, remembering the moment I cried out that Hannah had admitted it. "Just for a second." "Hannah's good, Akari," Suki said bitterly. "She's had 10 years to perfect this story. She'll tell him you're jealous. She'll tell him you're obsessed with her. She'll say you're unstable. That has always been their favorite word for you, hasn't it? Anytime you had a different opinion, anytime you fought back, you were unstable or too emotional." She was right. That's what my father had called me during my last fight with Hannah, right before the silence. "But a lie like that," I said, "it has cracks. A lawyer will look for cracks." Suki nodded. "Maybe. But right now you're the enemy. And they are all united against you." Aunt Suki drove me to a small motel just outside of town. I couldn't go back to my hotel. It was the one the family had booked for all the guests. I couldn't face them. As we drove, Suki's words, unstable, too emotional, kept ringing in my ears. They unlocked a memory. The real memory. The trivial fight that started it all. It wasn't about Kaito. Not really. I was in my dorm room. My final design portfolio was spread out on my desk. My ticket to the scholarship, to my future, to getting out. It was 2 days before the deadline. Hannah had come in, crying about Kaito again. I was tired, I was stressed. I told her I couldn't talk right then. She tripped. That's what she said. An entire bottle of Black India ink, a bottle I never even used, spilled all over my final collection drawings. All of them. Ruined. I remembered screaming. I remembered the look on her face. She wasn't sorry. She was smirking. And then I remembered the final piece. Kaito. He had been standing in the doorway. He hadn't knocked. He had come to apologize to Hannah. And he saw the whole thing. He saw the ink. He saw her face. My breath caught in my throat. The timeline snapped into place. Hannah didn't break up with Kaito because of me. Kaito broke up with her. He broke up with her because he saw, for 1 second, who she truly really was. And that was the moment her story began. I checked into the motel, my mind racing. The pieces were slotting into place, forming a dark, ugly picture. Kaito. He was the key. He was the only one who saw the original sin. Aunt Suki had given me a hug and left, making me promise to call her. I sat on the stiff motel bedspread, the room smelling like bleach and old cigarettes. Pulled out my laptop. I had to find Kaito. He was the only one who knew the truth. I searched his name. Kaito Tanaka. Kaito Matsui. Kaito Ito. I tried every last name I could think of that he might have. He had disappeared from social media 10 years ago, right after he'd left. Found nothing. Just old dead profiles. It was like he was a ghost. My hope began to drain away. It was my word against theirs. A 10-year-old lie that had become the family's truth. How could I fight that? My hands were shaking. I was about to close the laptop and give up, to just get in my car and drive west until I ran out of road. My phone sitting on the nightstand buzzed. Text message. From an unknown number. My heart jumped into my throat. Picked it up. The message was 5 words. I saw you at the wedding. My fingers were trembling as I typed back. Who is this? The reply was instant. We need to talk. Kaito. The 24-hour diner was buzzing with a harsh neon light. It was 2 a.m. Kaito sat in a booth in the back, nursing a cup of coffee. He looked older, tired. The easy smile he used to have was gone, replaced by lines of worry around his eyes. He stood up when I walked over. Akari, he said. His voice was full of a sadness so deep it startled me. Kaito, I said, sliding into the vinyl seat. You saw me. I was in town for my dad's funeral, he said, looking down. I heard from a cousin that Hannah was getting married. I don't know. I drove by the church. I saw you go in. Then I saw you get kicked out. We sat in silence. The waitress came and I ordered coffee I didn't want. She told them I stole you, I finally said. Kaito's head snapped up. What? She told my parents I stole you. That's why they hate me. That's why I lost my family. Kaito looked like I had punched him. Akari, no. He took a deep breath. I broke up with her. You know why. The portfolio, I whispered. I saw it, he said, his voice low and angry. I saw her laugh about it, Akari. After you ran out of the room, she was just giggling. She said, she deserved it. Always being Dad's little genius. Terrified me. I realized she wasn't just struggling. She was cruel. The validation was so intense, so painful, it felt like a new wound. So you left, I said. I left, he agreed. And you never told anyone. You just disappeared. He looked away, and a deep, dark shame crossed his face. That's not the whole story. I got back to the motel just as the sun was starting to rise, painting the sky in pale shades of pink and orange. Felt sick. My mother's cowardice was, in its own way, worse than my father's cruelty. He was a villain. She was just weak. Kaito was waiting in the parking lot, holding 2 cups of bad motel coffee. He handed one to me. You okay? He asked. My mother knew, I said. She's known this whole time. Kaito just nodded slowly. Of course she did. We sat on the hood of his car, watching the sun come up. So what's the plan, Akari? He asked. We walk in. Your dad calls security. We get thrown out. What's the end game? The end game, I said, is Ren. Just then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Aunt Suki. My heart leaped. Get ready, the text read. The groom is on the warpath. He's suspicious. He's been asking questions. He cornered me by the elevator last night, asking if you were unstable. I told him, Akari is the most stable person I know. You should be asking Hannah about a design portfolio from 10 years ago. I showed the phone to Kaito. A slow smile spread across his face. She did what? She just dropped the bomb, I said, a spark of real hope for the first time. Ren is investigating. The game has changed. He's not a defense attorney anymore. He's a prosecutor. The brunch was in a sunlit ballroom on the top floor of the hotel. White tablecloths, mountains of food, and a string quartet playing softly in the corner. It was all so beautiful, so civilized. Oh fake. About 30 guests were there. The inner circle. My father, Mr. Tanaka, was at the head of the main table, holding court, laughing at something. My mother sat beside him, smiling, her eyes puffy. And at the other end, Hannah and Ren. They were not touching. Hannah was wearing oversized sunglasses. Ren was staring into his coffee cup like it held the secrets to the universe. Kaito and I stood in the doorway. The music was so soft. The clink of my heel on the marble floor sounded like a gunshot. The string quartet trailed off, one violin at a time. The laughter stopped. Every head in the room turned. My father's smile froze. He saw me. And then he saw the man standing next to me. His face went from white to red in a split second. I had never seen him lose control before. Security, he roared, standing up so fast his chair screeched on the floor. Get them out. 2 guards from the wedding were at the door in an instant. They grabbed my arms. This time I was ready. They're with me. The voice wasn't mine. It wasn't Kaito's. It was Aunt Suki. She was sitting at a table in the back, a mimosa in her hand. She stood up slowly. Let them go, she said. Suki, this is a private family event. My father boomed, pointing a finger. This is none of your business. It became my business when you started burning mail, brother-in-law, Suki said coolly. The guards hesitated. I said get them out, my father yelled. No. The word was quiet, but it cut through the room like a knife. Everyone turned. Ren, the groom, was on his feet. He hadn't looked at me. He was looking at his new wife. And then he looked at my father. I want to hear this, Ren said, his voice flat and calm. All of it. Son, my father said. His voice changing, trying to be reasonable. This is a simple family misunderstanding. Akari has always been emotional. I'm sure she has, Ren said. He walked from his table and stood in the middle of the room. He looked at me. My new aunt, he said, nodding at Suki, told me to ask about a design portfolio. Hannah made a small choking sound. So, Akari, Ren said, turning to me. Tell me about the portfolio. My father's face was a mask of pure fury. The power had just shifted. I took a step forward, the guard's hands falling away from me. Kaito stood right behind me, a silent, living piece of evidence. It wasn't just the portfolio, was it, Hannah? I said, my voice clear and strong. The room was dead silent. Hannah just stared at me from behind her sunglasses. And it wasn't just $20,000, was it, father? My mother let out a tiny gasp. My father's eyes narrowed to slits. I did some digging last night, I said, pulling my laptop from my bag. Kaito had helped me. We'd spent an hour at the motel, him remembering the dates, me searching my old emails. I thought, why was my scholarship application just rejected? I said, opening the laptop. It was a sure thing. My professors were shocked. So I emailed the university archives last night. They were very helpful. I turned the laptop around. On the screen was a scanned letter. This is a letter dated 10 years ago, withdrawing my application. Signed with my name. Very good forgery. But the scholarship committee kept everything, including the digital records. I clicked to the next screen. They got this forged letter as an attachment from an email address. I didn't recognize it at first, but I recognized the domain name. I turned the laptop so my father could see it. It was sent from your work email. The room exploded, not in noise but in a wave of gasps. Hannah ripped off her sunglasses. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring at our father. You did that, she whispered, her voice full of a strange new horror. And in that moment I knew. She had been so wrapped up in her own lie about Kaito, so protected by my father's power, she never even knew the full extent of his crime. She thought she was the one in control. My father, Mr. Tanaka, slammed his fist on the table. The glasses jumped. I did it, he roared. The mask was gone. The calm, controlled man was replaced by something raw and ugly. I did it to stop this. To stop the fighting. You ruined her portfolio, he yelled at Hannah. She was hysterical, he yelled, pointing at me. I did what I had to do. I did it to save this family's reputation. A terrible, cold silence followed his words. Ren, the groom, just shook his head. You didn't save your reputation, he said, his lawyer voice back, clear and cutting. You just built a 10-year lie. He finally turned to his wife. His bride of less than 24 hours. Hannah, was anything you ever told me true? All eyes in the room, my mother's, my father's, Kaito's, Ren's, were on Hannah. This was it. The moment her world, the one my father had built for her, finally came crashing down. She had no more lies. She had no more protectors. She finally broke. It wasn't a pretty cry. It was a raw, ugly, gulping sob. She choked out. I just wanted to win. Just once. She was looking at me now, the hate from last night gone, replaced by a pathetic, childish envy. You always got everything, she wailed. You got the grades, you got the talent, you got all the praise. Akari is so smart. Akari is so gifted. Akari is going to be a star. Hannah, I just wanted you to feel what it was like to lose. Just once. The confession, the real one, hung in the air. It was so small. Petty. This whole thing. My lost career, Kaito's exile, my parents' lies. All of it because she was jealous. I had been ready for a monster. But she wasn't a monster. She was just a spoiled child, trapped in a woman's body. And my father had fed that child's envy until it grew into this wreckage. My father stood frozen. He had confessed. His perfect daughter had confessed. Kaito was standing there, a living ghost of my father's crime. My mother was sobbing quietly into a napkin, her face a mask of shame. I looked at my father, the man I had feared and, for a very long time, hated. Looked small. You know, I said, my voice quiet, and the whole room strained to hear. I spent 10 years trying to figure out what I did wrong. I thought I was broken. I thought there must be something wrong with me for my own family to throw me away. I looked at Hannah. You didn't just ruin my portfolio. I looked at my father. You didn't just take my scholarship. You took my sister. You took my mother and father. You took 10 years of my life. You let me believe I was worthless. I shook my head. All to protect a perfect image. All to protect a perfect daughter. But none of it was real. It was all a lie. My father had no words. For the first time in his life, Mr. Tanaka had nothing to say. The silence was my answer. The silence was his final confession. Ren had been standing perfectly still, watching the entire exchange. His face was unreadable. He was a statue just observing, processing. Now he moved. He walked slowly, deliberately, back to the table where Hannah was still sobbing. He didn't look angry. He didn't look sad. He looked empty. He stood in front of her for a long second. She looked up at him, her mascara-streaked face full of a desperate last-minute plea. "Ren," she whispered. He didn't say a word. He simply, calmly, took off his brand-new platinum wedding ring. He placed it on the table, next to a half-eaten croissant. The small clink was the loudest sound in the room. "I'll have my lawyer contact you," he said. Then, he did something I never expected. He turned to me. "Ms. Tanaka," he said, and his voice was full of a respect I had never heard from any of them. "I am truly, deeply sorry for what your family has put you through." He nodded once to me and once to Kaito. Then he turned, walked out of the ballroom and out of the marriage. He was the only one who had any honor in that room. He was free. Hannah let out a wail. It was a sound of pure, primal loss. Not for Ren, but for her perfect life, which had just evaporated. My father finally moved. He sank into his chair, looking like a puppet with its strings cut. He looked old. My mother was staring at the ring on the table. The guests were all looking at me. The wreckage. This was my revenge. This was the moment I had been planning for since Kaito and I sat in that diner. I had won. I had exposed every lie. I had brought the temple crashing down on their heads. But as I looked at my weeping sister and my broken father, I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel the rush of victory I had expected. I just felt tired. Then, felt light. "You know," I said to the room, though I was mostly speaking to myself, "I came here for revenge. I came here to make Hannah feel bad." I looked at the devastation. "But I don't feel powerful." I took a deep breath, and it felt like the first clean breath I'd taken in 10 years. "I just feel free." I turned my back on them. On all of it. I walked out of the ballroom. Kaito and Aunt Suki were right behind me. We didn't say much. We just went to the airport. Aunt Suki's flight was leaving in an hour. Kaito's was a few hours after that. He was going to go home, pack up his life and finally, after 10 years, figure out what he wanted to do. We were standing at the gate for Suki's flight. "Well," she said, pulling me into a fierce hug. "That was one hell of a brunch." "I couldn't have done it without you, Suki," I said. "You could have," she said, pulling back. "But I'm glad you didn't have to." She hugged Kaito. "You take care of yourself." And then she was gone, disappearing down the jet bridge. Kaito and I sat in the bright terminal, the sounds of announcements and new destinations all around us. Pulled out my phone. I had one more call to make. I found the number for the admissions office at the design school. My heart was pounding. "Yes, hello," I said, my voice shaking but in a good way. "My name is Akari Tanaka. I was an applicant. About 10 years ago. It's a long story. But I have new evidence. I have proof my application was withdrawn fraudulently. Yes, by my father." I listened, I nodded, I scribbled down an email address. "Thank you," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Thank you so much." Hung up. Kaito was smiling at me. "So what now, Akari?" I looked out the giant window, at a plane taking off, climbing into the bright, clear sky. "Now," I said, a smile slowly spreading across my face. "I begin." This story was about finding my truth, even if it meant taking my old life apart, piece by piece. My question for you is, what's a truth in your life that you've had to fight for? Let me know in the comments below. And thank you for listening.